Hello everyone, and welcome to our aviation maintenance class. We are currently in the aircraft drawings unit, and this is our extension activity on computer-aided drafting. This is going to be lab number 2, where you're going to have the chance to convert an orthographic drawing, which is a drawing in 3 views, into one 3-dimensional drawing that's going to look like this. And then, if you have the chance later on, you can even 3D print it. So this is an orthographic. You're going to see that I have a top view right here, I have a front view right here, and I have a right view right here. 3 separate pieces, but with the 3 pieces together you can figure out pretty easily what we have here. I think the right view is the one that's most helpful to me. If you take a look, what you're going to notice is that there are essentially 4 pieces to this. I mean, this is all one solid, but there are 4 pieces to this. There's this top block right here, then there's this middle block right here, and then you have this bottom block right here, but then there's also like an extension out of that bottom block. So I know, looking at these 4 pieces, that there are going to be 4 blocks. So, with no further ado, let's jump over to Tinkercad. Figure out for a second what this is going to look like. So I'm going to drag out, again, using the same procedures that you learned in the previous videos. You know at this point how to log into Tinkercad, how to operate the mouse, and how to do some basic things. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for you to drag out a box. If it is an issue for you, feel free to review the previous videos. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag out 4 boxes. That's certainly one way that you could skin the cat. Another way that you could go about doing this is you could click the box that you have and then duplicate it 4 times. So you click duplicate, you drag it out, and then you click duplicate, duplicate. So no matter which method you use, whether you drag them out by hand or you duplicate, you have lots of different tools at your availability here. Make sure you use them. So I have my 4 boxes here, and again, because we're using exact dimensioning here, the ruler tool is going to be super handy. I taught you how to use this previously, but again, I want to make sure that we have that going. Again, with our settings, we're going to go to inches like we did before, and I'm going to set my snap grid to 1/32 of an inch, just to make sure that I have that precision. So again, snap grid, 1/32. That's how I did that. Okay, cool. So now that we've done that, I need to draw out. I want to zoom in on the corner of my work plane over here, and I'm going to toss my ruler right on the edge. So I want to zoom in and make sure it's exactly where it needs to be. So make sure right on. Okay. So it looks like I have my datum set to the corner, just like we did previously. Whoa, okay. Sorry, I must have clicked something here, but moving on here. I've got my 4 boxes. I've got my corner datum set up. So now, let's start to get to work here. We have 4 different boxes of 4 different sizes, so let's just pick one and start working on it. I think this top one seems like the natural first choice for me to do. So if you take a closer look at it, and this is about as close as the drawing will let me go, it looks like my box is 3/8 of an inch in height, and in width it's a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to need to go to another view to get my width right here. So it's looking to me like the width of the top box, we know that this entire width right here is 3.5, and then we're going to subtract 1/2 for this edge and 1/2 for this edge. So you're subtracting an inch from 3.5, so we know that this is 2.5 right here. So we know that the dimensions of our block are going to be 3/8 high, half an inch wide, and then in depth it's 2.5. So again, using the same methods that we've already learned how to use, again, pretty straightforward here. Got to go to settings and make sure we're in inches. It looks like we are, I think. So let's take a look. Let's see if I can remember this. I think it was 0.5 inches high. I think in depth, was it 3/8? Oh shoot, I gotta go check again. Okay, so it's 3/8 of an inch high and half an inch wide. So 3/8 of an inch high, so I'm going to do 0.375 on that dimension. And on this dimension right here, I'm going to do 0.5. And then my width is going to be 2.5 inches, which is what I got from this part of the orthogonal view over here. Again, 3.5 minus a half minus a half. That's going to get you 2.5. So that is my top piece. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to drag that over here, get it out of sight and out of mind for now, and let's work on the next block. I think the natural next block to work on would be this middle block. So I'm going to take a closer look at it. And it looks like what we have here, in terms of width, it's the same as our top block. You're going to notice that I have this block right here is what we're going to be working on next. It's the same width. So I know right off the bat that my width, like before, is going to be 2.5. I'm going to type that in, and I have 2.5. Now I just need to adjust the height and the depth, or you get my point. I need to adjust these two dimensions right here. So I'm going to get a closer look at it. Let's start with this height. According to this diagram right here, the height is going to be 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to adjust that accordingly. That's 0.75. And then I'm going to, it looks like the width over here, we have a ½ inch here, but then we have another ½ inch over here. So to get this width, I need to do a ½ inch plus a ½ inch, which is a whole. So for this dimension right here, I'm going to change that to 1. And now I have my middle block. Yay, life is good so far. So now we're going to get my bottom piece. Let's figure that out. Okay, so again, looking at the different orthogonal views is super instructive here. I know that my bottom piece is going to be the full 3.5 inches wide, based off of this diagram right here. So now instead of being this width, it's the entire width, which marked here is 3.5. So let's take a look. I'm going to adjust that, and it's like we're at 3.5. So I have my width where it needs to be. Now let's adjust the other dimensions here. It looks to me like my height is a ½ inch. And my depth is 1 3/4 of an inch. So let's adjust that and see what that looks like. So I have a height of a ½ inch and a depth, I think it was 1 3/4. Did I already forget? Should look something like this. Let me double check. Was it 1 3/4? Yes, it was 1 3/4. So great. So now I have this piece. And again, I'm going to slide it over here. Now let's get this final piece front and center here. So you're going to notice, and I show it here on the slide, so we basically put together this piece, and this piece, and now we just need to get this little extra lip right here. So to do that, I'm going to refer back to the drawing again. You're going to notice that the width of my lip on the bottom, and again I have it drawn by these lines right here in my front view, is going to be 1.5 inches wide. So I know that this is going to be 1.5 inches wide. Let's get the other dimensions by looking at that other part of our orthogonal view here. And what we're looking at here is something that's a ½ inch tall by ½ inch deep. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch tall, 0.5, and then 1/2 inch deep. And now we have something that's looking really nice. So here's what's going to happen. Now I'm going to use my ruler to help me get everything lined up exactly the way it needs to be. So how about I start over here? Okay, there you go. That gives me a better view. Again, you got to learn to play with the mouse a little bit. And I'm just going to type it in, and I want to set the corner of this block to be at the corner of my datum. So I'm going to type in 0 in the Y and 0 in the X. And assuming you haven't messed with the height of this, it should already be on the ground, but in case you need to change that, make sure you change that. So great, now we have that set up. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in this part right here. Again, this is this part over here, and my dimensions on my view are going to be super helpful to me. I'm going to go with my front view for this one, and what it tells me is that I needs to be 1/2 inch away from the edge in that X direction. And that in the Y direction, it's going to be the same because they're all lined up along this line right here. So what I'm going to do to accommodate that, again, we have 1/2 inch right here, is I'm going to change this to be 0.5. I'm going to change this to be 0. But then, oh, this block is now merged with this block. Oh no, what do I do? Well, this is where the Z axis is going to be super helpful. We know that to get this where it needs to be 1/2 inch off the ground based off of this right view. So I'm going to change my Z direction movement from 0 to 0.5, and that gets me exactly what I need to do. So again, we have that, and again, using the same methods, I'm going to do the same with this top block. So again, I'm going to set it as a 0.5 from the edge over here. I'm going to set this as a 0 over here. And then in the Y direction, in the Z direction, I'm going to use this right here because this is, what helps me with that. It looks like I need to do 1/2 inch plus 3/4 of an inch to get to the bottom of where this top piece is. So 1/2 plus 3/4 is 1 1/4. That's 1.25. And that puts that block right here. And then the final piece of everything into, let's see, I know that it needs to be 1 3/4 inches out along that y-axis. So I'm going to start with that first. So let's talk with this piece. It's going to be 1 3/4. Cool. And then in the x direction, this is where if the right view isn't giving me what I need, I'm going to switch back to my front view, and that's going to give me what I need. And it looks like this piece is offset 1 inch away from the edge, so I'm going to, in my x direction, type in 1. And that centers it exactly where it needs to be. Last thing I'm going to do, most important, is I'm going to highlight all my pieces and merge them together. And I have myself one solid piece. I want you to take a look at something. I want you to compare this to what you see in the orthogonal view drawings. Let's start with our front view. I want to show you what the front looks like, and I want you to compare the two. So here's my front view of sorts. Let's take a look and see how that compares to this front view. Again, you have your top piece, your middle piece, you have this front piece sticking out, and you have what's remaining of the bottom sticking out from the sides. That looks exactly what you have right here if you look at it from a back view, based on the way I have it set up here. Now let's look at a top view. What you're going to see at the top view is the two steps, the platform, and the protruding edge right here. So if I were to put this on a top view, and I'm going to rotate it so we can get a view that's a little more like the drawing. You're going to notice that, for the most part, it is exactly alike. So you have your 2 steps, you have your platform, and you have the protruding edge. 2 steps, platform, protruding edge. Okay, very good, very good. And then, even if you look at it from the right side, it looks exactly the same as what you should expect the drawing over here. I will say before we finish up that I did make one mistake, and I'm going to be completely transparent about that, and it's this. I think I misread the width of my 2 steps right here. You're going to notice that the width of these 2 steps are exactly the same, but when you look at it from the top view over here, oh wait, the width is exactly the same, but it's strange. When you look at it from the top view, it almost looks like they're different widths. Never mind, just kidding, I never made that mistake. Well, now you can see how to translate something from the orthogonal view in those 3 two-dimensional drawings into something in 3D. And later on, you'll learn how to print it in 3D and make something that you draw on paper come to life. I hope this is helpful to you. Clancy over and out.